Greetings everyone. My name is Michael Bryan and welcome to my learning module. In this learning module, we'll be learning about individuals with spinal cord injuries, particularly paraplegia and tetraplegia. Tetraplegia may also be referred to in some cases as quadriplegia, but the only difference in terms is that quadriplegia mixes Latin and Greek roots, while tetraplegia is purely Greek. The officially recognized term is tetraplegia, specifically for this reason. Before I really get into paraplegia, tetraplegia, and the library, I'd like to cover some basic facts and terminology. For the purposes of this learning module, the term paraplegia refers to a spinal cord injury that has occurred below the 7th cervical vertebra, resulting in sensory and/or motor impairment in the lower half of the body. Conversely, the term tetraplegia refers to a spinal cord injury that has occurred above the 1st thoracic vertebra, resulting in sensory and/or motor impairment in all 4 limbs and the torso. It's possible for anyone to suffer a spinal cord injury regardless of their gender, age, ethnicity, or economic status. However, research has shown that it is more prominent among certain groups over others. There are approximately 276,000 individuals with spinal cord injuries living here in the United States, with approximately 12,500 cases new each year. 79% of the injured are males, 63% are non-Hispanic whites, and 24% are blacks. 28% of injured individuals are employed within 10 years after their injury. These statistics come from the National Spinal Cord Injury Statistical Center at the University of Alabama at Birmingham. While these statistics do not directly impact how libraries can help to serve this particular user group, they are worth taking into consideration when thinking about this population as a whole. Paraplegia and tetraplegia are not clear-cut and simple conditions. They exist on a gradient, and the effects of an injury can differ in severity between individuals. Some people with para or tetraplegia are able to hold jobs, and most are able to be mobile to some degree with the aid of special motorized wheelchairs. Moving on to discussing how the library can further help individuals with these conditions, there is very little in the LIS literature pertaining specifically to this topic. Certainly, they can be categorized under one of many different broader terms concerning physical disabilities, but I believe there is an important element missing in this classification. With these conditions comes a massive change in the way the individual lives his or her life, and it is likely to have a very significant emotional component, especially in the first few years. For most of the people who suffer an injury resulting in one of these conditions, their personal mobility will never be the same. There's a loss of personal freedom and capability that may come suddenly with no warning and no pretense. Adjusting back to a normal state of daily life may seem nearly impossible at first, and social activities they once enjoyed may become impossible. Fortunately, libraries have evolved from the book depositories they once were into thriving community centers. Previous learning modules have touched on user bases that may benefit from the library as a social experience. Maintaining touch with a welcoming and accepting community through a library may help people with spinal cord injuries have the social interaction they need or desire in the form of involvement in library programs and use of library materials. We've discussed assistive technology in previous learning modules, and more than ever, it is relevant here as well. For individuals with paraplegia or tetraplegia, especially in the cases of tetraplegia, it may prove difficult to access print materials in the library, whether this means physically accessing a material on the shelf or handling it. For some, use of electronic resources may be easier, but there is room for improvement in how libraries can offer these resources. A robust offering of electronic resources on a well-designed library website that has been designed for accessibility is crucial. This is particularly true in the case of some people with tetraplegia who have lost the ability to control their hands and arms with precision and accuracy they once had. For these individuals, screen readers, voice recognition software, and sip and puff controllers may be their only means of self-information access. What's a sip and puff controller? It's a tool, a technology that converts a sip or puff from the mouth, an inhale or an exhale, into a signal that the controller can send to a device, an external device, which could be something such as a motorized wheelchair or a computer. I know we've discussed the design and accessibility of electronic resources in learning modules prior, but more than ever it is important for this user group. In the whole of this learning module, I've tried to cover as much breadth as possible concerning this group and its interaction with the library and library services. I chose this approach because this group garners little attention in the LIS field, and it's reflected in the literature. Your next step from here is to choose 2 of the readings and look through them. The second reading is a slightly more difficult read than the others, and deals with more technical details, but I do think it's manageable. I've provided very brief introduction videos and a couple of quotes from each article on their respective pages, and it's worth a couple of minutes or so to look through them all, even if that's not a reading you're interested in going through. After you've completed your readings, take a look at the discussion activity. Read through and choose one of the questions to respond to using the class discussion board. Finally, I provide some external links to a few additional sources of information on spinal cord injuries. If this is a topic that interests you or you want to know more about spinal cord injuries in general, these may be good resources. Thank you for your time, and I hope you enjoy this learning module.